you rarely see this, right? But you do occasionally see this from time to time, a handgun red dot mounted on an AR-15, but is it a good idea? Today, I'm gonna give you 5 reasons why you should run a pistol red dot on your AR-15 and maybe a few reasons why you shouldn't along the way. If you want just to make a super quick decision on if you should or if you shouldn't, then you can skip to this part of the video right here to get a quick and dirty matrix to help you figure this out. But for those of you who want to stick around and go through each one of the reasons, the pros and cons, well, let's jump right into it right now. Reason number 1 why anyone would want to mount a pistol red dot on their AR-15 isn't the main reason. We'll get into that in just a little bit, but it is a huge consideration for a lot of us. That is the weight savings you get with a pistol red dot. Let me give you an idea of the weight savings we're getting. Most handgun red dots that are out there are going to be from 1 or maybe 2 ounces. For comparison, a standard rifle red dot like an Aimpoint Pro weighs about 11.6 ounces. What that means is you're shaving more than half a pound off the top rail, which lowers your center of gravity and makes the rifle incredibly flexible, basically meaning it's easy to maneuver during rapid transitions. For that reason, anyone who is looking to build an ultra lightweight gun, like maybe some of my competition buddies are looking to do, you are going for this option. At the same time, any of my stealth tactical bros who like to build the bag guns, who really want to consider weight when they're building those guns out, those guys are huge fans of this too. Even though having a weight savings is super nice, there is still a downside here. And in most cases, you're trading that weight savings for structural rigidity. Let me tell you what I mean. Pistol red dots from the ground up are designed to survive the violent snap of a handgun slide going back and forth. But a primary rifle optic must withstand sustained rates of fire over long stretches of time. Because of this, the mounting system has the ability to hold zero, and it's going to be much better than some of those smaller red dots. At the same time, I don't know about you, but I tend to be a lot rougher with my rifles than I am with my handguns. I'm much more likely to drop it or place it in a bag and have it be tossed around the trunk of my car or something than I am with my handgun, which normally I just take in and out of the holster. So rifle optics, which are much bigger, thicker, and more durable, are going to sustain that rugged lifestyle that most rifles are accustomed to. And if you guys are anything like me, people who like to save a penny or two when you're shopping for optics, most budget red dots aren't as rigid as a rifle red dot at the same price point. You're gonna have to save up and spend the money on something like a Trijicon RMR or maybe even that new EOTech red dot that's coming out to get the ruggedness that most people want. But maybe you baby your guns, you never drop them, and you're super careful with them all the time, like you just got a brand new Cerakote job or something. That might not be much of a downfall for you as it is for someone who can get a little rough with their guns, like me. Okay, let's move on to the next reason, which I'm going to call the heads-up display reason. So let me show you something. Look at the difference between this pistol red dot and then this rifle red dot real quick. And let me ask you, what do you notice most of all? Well, the biggest thing that I'm seeing is that the pistol red dot's thin frame is quite unnoticeable here. What does this actually do for us while we're shooting? Well, because of the minimalistic and thin frame design, the lack of thick walls gives us a much wider field of view as we're shooting. Some of the tactical shooter guys that I was looking at really like this advantage because you're able to maintain situational awareness of the total environment and area around you without getting tunnel vision like a red dot with a super thick frame might lead you to do. It's almost like having a smaller red dot like this gives you kind of a heads-up display experience, kind of like I'm used to playing Call of Duty. Let me give you an even better example. Think about an LPVO real quick compared to a red dot. Notice how easy it is to get sucked into the display or the reticle when you're looking through an LPVO compared to a red dot. Now do the same thing, but this time just think of a smaller pistol red dot compared to a larger rifle one. For example, if you're running a competition stage and there's maybe 12 or 20 different targets that you're transitioning to, they're all spaced out in a group, and then you're running a smaller dot like this, And it might be helpful for you because you're able to see each one of those targets in your peripheral vision. You're able to quickly transition to them without overcompensating and losing time by switching to a target back and forth. But at the same time, if you're just starting out using a red dot on a rifle, I would say being a little bit more focused on where your target is and properly indexing that target with the dot might be a little bit more important to you. Not only that, but that open emitter design can be a little bit of an Achilles heel for rifles because that LED and the lens are completely exposed to the elements and the atmosphere. A single drop of rain, snow, or anything else landing on that lens or on that emitter will cause your dot to bloom or even completely disappear. So if you're building your gun and want it to be more duty grade, meaning it can survive unexpected situations and still be able to aim downrange properly, then the closed emitter designs or more traditional mailbox designs are going to be the winners here. Moving on to our next reason why you want a stubby red dot mounted on your gun is if you're running a CQB Focused AR. Now guys, don't let this footage of me, the cool guy, fool you. I'm not a tactical operator by any means, but there is some reasons why, if you're running something like a home defense gun, you would want a much smaller optics package on your gun in the first place. The first reason is the weight savings that we talked about earlier. If you're in a tight enclosed space and you need to quickly maneuver around tight corners, walls, and doorways, then you don't want a super heavy LPVO or rifle optic with a magnifier on your gun weighing you down, right? Unless you're like me and you just put that magnifier on your gun to look super cool, but that's besides the point, guys. At the end of the day, if you're someone who is building an AR whose specific job is going to be something like close quarters home defense, then having a pistol red dot on that gun might be a real option for you. For example, if you're building something like a 9mm PCC designed to be your nightstand gun, and that's where it's going to live 90% of the time, except for the few occasions you take it out to the range, then yeah, I would totally say throwing something on like our AT3 Ace or a Trijicon RMR or something else is totally the way to go here. But there's a bit of a downside here too, and it's kind of a downside with red dots in general, but who among us hasn't done one of these before, trying to properly align your dot and get an accurate sight picture? My basic argument here is if your head placement isn't perfectly aligned behind that tiny window, then the dot completely vanishes and you're wasting time trying to index your sight and your dot properly. So if you're forced to shoot from an unconventional position, like underneath a vehicle or leaning around a barricade or something where your perfect cheek weld is impossible realistically, then that larger window optic is actually quite useful here because it's able to guide your view towards the right spot. Or you could just shoot with iron sights and get good at the fundamentals first, like everyone should, and from there, shooting with a red dot is actually quite easy. Remember that magnifier I mentioned just a little bit ago? A lot of people like to use red dots paired with magnifiers because in an instant you can go from shooting 25 to maybe 100 yards to all of a sudden increasing your maximum effective range of your optic from 100 yards to maybe as far as 300 yards if you're a good shot. But if you want to do this with a pistol red dot, things get a bit trickier. Let me show you what I mean real quick. You see, the traditional rifle's red dots are actually cylindrical in most cases, which makes allowing their optical center line with a cylindrical magnifier incredibly straightforward and consistent. On the other hand, pistol red dots use open reflex designs that are simply not intended to be paired with a magnifier most of the time. When you place a magnifier behind a pistol red dot, the magnifier can amplify the distortion, glare, or imperfections that a smaller and sometimes lower cost slanted open emitter gives you. So if you're someone who really likes to use the flip magnifiers to achieve the fast 3x magnification, then I would say using a pistol red dot is not the best option here. But as usual, guys, I saved the best reason for last, and that's using a pistol red dot as a secondary optic on your AR. Mounting a 45-degree offset red dot or a piggyback red dot on something like an LPVO gives you an instant 1x aiming solution for a sudden close range encounter, while your main scope and main optic handles the long distance work. Let me give you a couple of examples of people who really like to use these. Competition shooters are people who might actually run two pistol red dots because one might be sighted in at 25 yards and the other one angled at 45 degrees that is sighted in at maybe 5 to 10 yards. Competition guys do this so that they can quickly transition from close range targets to a target that's a bit further out without having to worry about holdovers, so that they can hit perfectly in that A zone every single time, just like I do. No, I don't. Another group of people who love these are hunters. Let me give you a quick scenario. Maybe you're coming down from the deer stand after a long day of hunting and you miss that prize buck that you shot at earlier. So you mosey down the deer stand, super disappointed. Maybe you've got your head hung in shame because you have no pictures to show your hunting buddies at church. This is not at all a relatable situation for me. And then suddenly you see it, that prize buck that evaded you earlier, just 10 yards away. But your LPVO on your AR is still magnified at 5x. So what do? This is where having a 45-degree offset red dot sighted in at a much closer range is very handy, because you can simply lift your AR, cant it a little bit, and you've got a good sight picture to take your time to set up the shot. Just like with our other options, guys, this does have some downsides to it. First of which being it does require some training for you to get used to this, and not everyone is comfortable with it right off the bat. So just like that, with any new optic that you're getting, make sure you're putting in the time to get used to this and this particular style of shooting, because it is different. It also has additional snag points. If you find yourself running through trees or brush of any kind, then having an offset dot with a mount that extends past the body of the gun will create some points of snag, which can create some problems if you're doing something like running a sling or, again, trying to hide in those bushes. There's also a higher chance of having that optic break if you drop your gun on its side, since the full weight of your gun is coming down directly onto that optic. So if you find yourself dropping your gun all the time and you want to run a 45-degree offset dot, maybe invest in something that's a little bit more rugged, or you can just not have that skill issue in the first place. Okay, we went through all of the reasons why you would want to use a pistol red dot on your AR. Now, in case you skipped to this part, then let me give you the super simple decision matrix that you can use next time you're thinking about this. And let's make it really clear for you guys. When deciding between a rifle or a pistol red dot on your AR-15, you must first define your rifle's primary mission. Are you building a duty-grade carbine or an ultralight niche specialist gun? When deciding between a rifle or a pistol red dot on your AR-15, you must first define your rifle's primary mission. Are you building a duty-grade carbine or an ultralight niche specialist build? For general purpose and duty use, including some home defense and all-weather tactical situations, the rifle red dot is the superior choice because its enclosed tube design is highly durable and impervious to rain, mud, or snow, preventing the dot from fracturing or disappearing altogether. The tube dot also features a forgiving sight picture, or, the eyebox, which is crucial for quick target acquisition when shooting from an unconventional position where the perfect cheek weld is pretty much impossible. If you ever plan on engaging targets past 100 yards, the tube dot is the only compatible option, as it pairs flawlessly with the 3x or the 5x magnifiers. The pistol red dot, while being ultralight and compact, is a niche specialist here, best reserved for competition builds, ultralight builds, or as a piggyback or 45-degree backup sight, or if you just have an extra red dot laying around that you're trying to make use of. Its open emitter makes it susceptible to environmental failure. Its tight eyebox is unforgiving of imperfect head alignment, so you have to train with it a bit more, and it requires extra hardware like specialized riser mounts to be used comfortably as a primary optic on an AR-15 due to the inline stock design. The hard truth is simple. Buy the rifle red dot for your life and buy the pistol red dot for your ultralight and backup needs. Speaking of backup builds, we did spend a little bit of time here talking about the 45-degree offset options, and there's way more to it than what I had time to talk about here. So if you guys want an in-depth guide on backup red dots on your AR-15, well, I actually made a whole video about that a while back right over here, so you can check that one out. I'll catch you guys over there. You know how you overshoot your target? That's what we want to avoid.